Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Audrey and today I want to make a video about how to study for a didactic year. So the following are my top 5 tips and the top 5 things that I kind of picked up as the didactic year unraveled, and some things I wish I would have known since the very beginning. So if you want to know more, please keep watching. Okay, so first of all, I want to start off the video by saying that by no means this is the only way you can study for a didactic year, and by no means this is the only way that you should study for didactic year. Okay, so I just finished my didactic year a couple of weeks ago. I am starting my clinical year, which makes me a second year student. We're starting our classes tomorrow for our second year. So hopefully if you're watching this and you're about to start your didactic year, or you already started but you're still a little lost, as I was even like the first 2 months of didactic year, hopefully these tips help you. So number one, something that I really highly recommend is to give all of your classes time. Now by that I mean is that time management is key, and the fact that we have so many hours to get under our belt by didactic year, even in one semester alone, it can be very overwhelming. So something that I did was I made a schedule, and on my Excel sheet, or even I had a notepad. I didn't have to get so fancy. I just had like a simple notepad, and I would write down, after my classes of course, 1 hour and 15 minutes or 1 hour and a half a lot of the times for each class. Now obviously there's going to be some classes that take more of your time and then some that are going to take less. There's going to be times where you have to go back to maybe the more complex courses, or maybe it doesn't have to be just a 1 hour class. It could be maybe the 1 hour class is giving you a hard time, but that's okay. The point of the matter is you have to give, or I recommend you giving all of your classes some time, at least a base time of maybe an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half, so you can really focus only on that class and give it some time that you need. Now once you have given all of your classes that 1.5 or whatever hour you do set or time you set, you are more than welcome, and I highly recommend to go back, and anything you didn't get to finish on your time, you can now go ahead and give it a second time. Now by that, you have already given all of your classes some time, so you're not neglecting any classes. And now that you finished that one round, maybe that 1 hour or that time that you made was enough for that one class. Well, now you have the rest of the day or the rest of your time, so you can divide into what class you need to go back on to master that content. Now that's a method that really worked for me, and I did that throughout the semester, throughout the year actually. That's something that I did from the very beginning, because I remember some classmates that have already graduated of mine, they would tell me that they would neglect maybe an easier course and they would focus solely on the harder course, but then at the end of the semester they were like, okay, I should have just split my time evenly, and their grades would be a little funky, as in maybe on the greater classes they had gotten maybe like really good grades, but then on your lower end classes, maybe like the 1 hour course, maybe they would have gotten a better grade than the C, or they probably had a harder time only because they were neglecting. But what we want to build is good study habits and foundation and stability on our groundwork, so that way we master the content on our own time, but we're also not neglecting courses at the end of the day. Tip number 2 for me is finding a online, app that helps you organize all of your content. We are getting loads of information, whether it be OneNote, Notability, I know there's Evernote, something like that. There's a bunch of apps out there. Now the fact that there is so many apps out there, it can be very tricky for you to really see which one was gonna work best for you. Now unfortunately, maybe you're like me and you won't know what worked for you or would have worked for you unless you use it. Now a lot of people can tell you, okay, maybe use Notability or use Evernote, but then as the semester unwinds, you're having trouble organizing things, and that can ultimately just kind of force you to go somewhere else in the middle of the semester to another app, and that's something I don't recommend, only because I found myself in that predicament and I had to transfer all of my documents to another app that I started to use. So I started off using Notability, which is super highly recommended. That app is a few dollars, I believe, and I started using that app and I liked it. It was okay, but then one of my classmates and a lot of my classmates were using this app called Microsoft OneNote, and after I saw that it was free, and I did see that you can record your lectures, you can upload PowerPoints or any document really, and you can make notes on the side. You can doodle with a pen if you have an Apple pen, or if you have just a screen pen to draw on your notes. And I was like, oh, okay, let me give it a shot. And I wish I would have used OneNote from the very beginning. I love the fact that you can make notes and folders within folders within folders. So you can have everything super mega organized. I know I'm a very organized person when it comes to that stuff. I like to have my notes easily accessible for me. So one thing I didn't really like about Notability was that it was just one tab, and there's really much not like more folders you can create from that. So since we do have so many classes and so many documents, it was just starting to get really messy for me. Everything would just be floating in one folder. And what I liked, again, what I said from OneNote, was that I can make a folder within a folder within a folder. So it was really organized for me. Now, you might like to use your app of preference now, which is great. The point of this is just to find out what works for us and keep doing that. For me, Notability was just not compatible with my learning style and what I was trying to accomplish organizational wise. So I had to make the jump during the semester. So I recommend you guys just using something that you might think it works for you, and then try it out if it does. And if it doesn't, there's no shame in just transferring your documents, but that's something we kind of want to prevent, just to keep organization. And you don't want to worry about something else in the middle of the semester, like, okay, now I found something else, let me transfer my documents over, because it could take a little bit of time. And like I said, time management is key in PA school. You don't want to waste 2 hours transferring documents when you could have been using those 2 hours to study. So I recommend doing higher research on an app that works for you, and then seeing if it's the best fit. Another tip that I recommend is transcribing and staying to the end of the class, of course. Something that my classmates and I did was we created a transcription group where we would kind of transcribe the lectures and any recorded lectures that were available online for us. We had, thankfully, our lecturers and our professors record some lectures for us online, and we created a transcription group where we would just transcribe lectures and hit the points. What really helped me from this was, once I was able to view the lecture on my own time, I would go back and I would read our points that we'd made under the lecture notes. So that was really helpful for me to just sit down once, see the lecture, just, go along with what the lecturer is saying. Then I would go back, then I would read the transcription. Then if I still didn't understand, I would either contact my professor or I would go back to the video and just watch it again. So that was something that was really helpful for us and myself, only because sometimes as I'm watching the lecture, a lot of facts can slip, and I'm only focusing maybe on the PowerPoint or trying to focus on what they're saying, and a lot of information can be missed or gone out the window. So the fact that I was able to go back and read like the points that maybe I would have missed by just listening was really helpful for my classmates and for myself as well. Something else that was really important in regards to all that is lecture time is really important and really valuable. We have to really appreciate the time that the lecturers make to give information to us and maybe answer some of our questions. I know it might be very easy or tempting to just like slip out and just kind of like, okay, lecture's over, let me just hop off and jump into bed. But I noticed a lot of the times when some students would stay at the end of lecture and not log off, they would ask some questions that were really helpful, or maybe there would be questions that maybe I was a little too embarrassed to ask, or maybe they were just questions that I didn't have, and it was a good question after all, and it helped me clarify maybe a topic I was having trouble with. And I really just recommend staying till the end of class and seeing if anyone has any questions. What are those questions, and why are they asking those questions, and what's the answer to these questions? So transcribing at lectures, if they're provided for you, and maybe staying till the end of class just to make sure you don't miss any information, is something I really recommend as well. Another tip I have for you guys is practice exam questions. Now this one's a little tricky because I know our program, they were able to purchase exam master questions for us, and I used that heavily. I didn't buy Rosh, and I didn't buy Smarty Pants. I didn't buy any other I guess program or software that offers like practice exam questions. I really just use Exam Master, and any questions that my lecturers would provide for us, which there was a lot of them. You don't have to really go out and spend money buying maybe a heavy software for exam questions if that's something that's not available for you or affordable for you. I know a lot of professors make their own practice exam questions and give them out to you, but the purpose is do practice exam questions because you get into the rhythm of just reading the question. How are they wanting to ask the question? What from the vignette or from the question that's provided for you can you dissect and start to think of a differential, or how are these questions going to be presented to us? It's one thing to read content off PowerPoints, but then when it comes to the exam date, it could be very tricky to just get lost in reading a story where they're asking you, what is wrong with this patient? What's the next best step? How do you treat this patient? So getting into the rhythm of reading stories or vignettes, as they call them, or practice exam questions over and over and over prepares you for the exam day, because on the exam day, it's not the first day where you're reading presentations, case scenarios, or cases. You've done this, so you just tell yourself, okay, I've done this, I've seen the content, I've studied it to the best of my ability. Now the day of the test is coming, I'm gonna go ahead and just read cases again. I've done this before in the past, this is not new to me. The cases obviously are gonna be different, but I can do this, and I've seen this presentation of cases before, so I'll be fine. So that is something I highly recommend as well, doing practice exam questions. Lastly, I think the biggest one, if not maybe number two, aside from practice exam questions, is making charts. Now, I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with making charts, but I would make a Google Doc. I would insert a table which had maybe however diseases there were. Maybe there was 6 diseases, so I would make 2 columns, and I would make 3 tables. In each column I would put 2 diseases, so it would be 2, 4, 6 diseases, and I would, in each little box for all of the diseases, I would write the general presentation or any facts or pearls, as we call them, for that disease. I would write that disease's clinical presentation. I would write the disease exam findings, diagnostic studies, treatment, and anything else I would feel that it was pertinent for me to write for that disease. But I would like to have those charts ready before the day of the lecture. So I would just make charts that had boxes of all of those diseases. So the day of the lecture would come and I had everything in just maybe 10 pages, which would have rather come from a PowerPoint that would have been 60 slides, and I would have to just go skimming like crazy during lecture. I had all this information in just a Google Doc and a couple of maybe 6 to 7 pages, because it does depend if you're adding like fancy fonts or the size of your font. I would usually keep it at a 9. And it would be readily available for me. I would just have to find the disease, and everything was there for that one disease. So that made it really efficient for me time-wise. And as I was typing the information, it made me really study it. And by the time the lecture would come, I would, like I said, go back and easily access this information. And I would also like to have my chart ready before lecture, for the lecture of that day, because I also like to add any notes that maybe the professor was adding for that disease that maybe weren't included on the PowerPoints. So in my disease box, I would have everything from the PowerPoint, plus by the time lecture would come, I would start adding any notes that the lecturer was just adding off the top of their head. My studying was more efficient in the sense that I had everything I needed for that one disease in that little box. And when finals came around, I didn't have to go straggling for all these PowerPoints. I had everything in one document, and it made it very easy for me. Now, the charting stuff is something I highly regret not doing from day one, because I know my first module which was immunology. When finals came around, I didn't have a nice chart to look back to. I had all my PowerPoints, because I remember I would just pull it up on my iPad and I would just start writing like on little random spaces of my slide, and it was very messy for me, I must admit. But that's something I really wish I would have done since the beginning, because in the spring, that's the method that I used. And when finals came around, I literally had my GI charts, I had my renal chart, I had my endo chart, and I had my MSK chart, and everything was literally just 4 documents, and all my stuff was accessible with all of my mumbled up notes. So that's something I really recommend for you guys. So that's it for this video. I hope that really helped you guys, and it helped some of you guys maybe pick up some tips that maybe you might like to include in your study routine. Like I said, this is not a be-all, one-all, end-all type of studying for didactic year. These are just tips that helped me and some of my classmates, and some things I wish I would have known since day one, to include in my study habits and my studying routines that maybe would have helped make didactic semester 1 easier for me, and it simply made the following semesters easier for me in the sense when it comes to organizing my content. I'm gonna include a video at the end of this video just showing you like a chart that I did just to clarify. I know some of you guys are visual like myself, so I'm gonna include a little video in regards to how I set up all my content. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish you guys luck. Those of you that are starting off your didactic year this year, good luck. You can do this. It might be hard. There's a lot of content, but it's not impossible. So find what works for you. Believe in yourself. Take a deep breath. Take time. Take breaks. You can do this. Just keep pushing on. So thanks everyone for watching. If you have any questions or any concerns, just go ahead and leave a comment down below. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, and until next time, thank you.